The rain hit the pavement in heavy sheets, blurring the city lights into streaks of gold and red. The roads were slick, the air thick with the scent of wet asphalt. The kind of night where people hurried home, heads down, shoulders hunched against the cold. No one saw the black luxury car swerving uncontrollably before it happened. A deafening crash shattered the silence, a violent, gut-wrenching sound of metal twisting against metal. The car skidded across the road, slammed into a pole, and came to a crushing halt. Steam hissed from the broken hood. The driver's side was crumpled inward. The city moved on, barely noticing. People walked past, not bothering to stop. A few slowed down, took a quick glance, and then hurried away, as if afraid to get involved. Except for her. A young woman, dressed in worn-out clothes, soaked from head to toe, ran straight toward the wreckage. She didn't know who was inside. She didn't care. She crouched by the shattered glass and peered through the window. Inside, a man slumped against the seat, motionless. Blood trickled from his forehead, running down his expensive suit. His breathing was shallow. She yanked the door handle. It wouldn't budge. She tried again. Nothing. Her heart pounded. "Sir, can you hear me?" No response. A car zoomed past, splashing icy water over her. Someone in a nearby cafe watched but didn't move. She didn't have time to wait for help. With all her strength, she gripped the door frame and pulled. Metal groaned under her desperate effort. Her fingers bled from the sharp edges, but she didn't stop. With one final heave, the door gave way. She reached inside and unbuckled the man's seatbelt, her hands trembling. "Stay with me, okay?" His eyes fluttered open, dazed and unfocused. He tried to speak, but his voice failed him. She lifted him out, struggling under his weight, and carefully dragged him away from the wreckage. The moment she did, a faint whiff of gasoline filled the air. Something was leaking. Then, a spark. Before she could react, flames burst from the car's hood. The heat rushed toward them in a wave, smoke curling into the night sky. The man stirred weakly in her arms, his grip tightening around her sleeve. His face twisted in pain, but he still didn't know who she was, or what she had just done for him. She looked at the inferno behind them and let out a shaky breath. "You're safe now." She had saved a man's life. A stranger. A millionaire. She thought it ended there. But months later, everything changed. Because when he finally found out who saved him, his reaction was nothing like she expected. The night of the accident had faded into a blur. The girl had no idea who the man was, and honestly, she didn't care. She had done what any decent human being should do, help someone in need. But the world didn't reward kindness the way people believed it did. Days passed, then weeks. No one reached out to thank her. No sudden miracles transformed her life. The rent was still overdue, her part-time job barely paid enough to survive, and her savings were disappearing fast. Life moved on. She worked long shifts at a rundown cafe, balancing plates, enduring rude customers, and trying to ignore the exhaustion that clung to her bones. Every night, she walked home with sore feet, dreading the sight of eviction notices stacked against her door. And yet, no matter how hard things got, she never regretted stopping that night. Meanwhile, in a private hospital across the city, a man lay awake, haunted by something he couldn't explain. The millionaire had no memory of the accident, just brief flashes. Blurry lights. The feeling of being trapped. And then, someone's voice. A soft, steady voice telling him, "You're safe now." Who was she? He should have been dead. Doctors told him that if he had remained in that car just seconds longer, the fire would have taken him. And yet, no one had come forward to claim credit. No reporters, no publicity seekers, no one demanding a reward. That didn't make sense. His world was filled with people who always wanted something from him: money, deals, status. And yet, this girl, whoever she was, had disappeared as if she never existed. It bothered him. Somewhere, out there, was a stranger who saved his life. And he needed to find her. The girl's life gets harder. A month after the accident, things took a turn for the worse. The cafe where she worked cut her hours without warning. The manager, who never liked her, claimed it was due to slow business, but she knew better. He just wanted her gone. "Maybe you should look for something else," he said dismissively, handing her a paycheck so small it barely covered groceries. Something else. As if finding another job was that easy. She spent the next few weeks searching for work, going from business to business, handing out resumes, and enduring rejection after rejection. One day, she walked into a corporate office, hoping to land a receptionist job. The place was sleek and modern, the kind of environment where she clearly didn't belong. The hiring manager took one look at her clothes, wrinkled his nose, and sighed. "You don't really seem like the right fit for this company." She swallowed the humiliation and walked out, forcing herself not to cry. What was she supposed to do? Meanwhile, the search continues. The millionaire was growing restless. He had his people searching, reviewing security footage, checking hospital records, tracking down eyewitnesses. But there was nothing. She was a ghost. Then, by sheer luck, a lead appeared. A cafe worker, someone who had seen a girl rush into the street that night, mentioned a description. Not much, but enough. The millionaire ordered his investigators to expand the search. He had no idea that fate was about to step in. Because in a few days, the very girl he was searching for was going to walk into his office. Completely unaware of who he was. The office lobby was cold and intimidating. Glass walls, polished floors, and men in sharp suits moved with purpose, as if the air itself carried the weight of power and money. The girl adjusted her second-hand blouse, feeling out of place. She hadn't wanted to apply here, it was far beyond her league, but the cafe's job board listed an open position, and at this point, she was desperate. A receptionist job. Simple, right? Answer phones, greet clients, try not to get fired. She stood in line with other applicants, her hands tightening around her resume. She knew it wasn't impressive. No degrees, no fancy connections, just a long list of short-term jobs and survival struggles. A man in a dark suit walked past, scanning the applicants without interest. She barely glanced at him. But he stopped mid-step. His breath hitched. A strange, electric jolt shot through him. It was her. The girl from the accident. The one who had disappeared. The millionaire had imagined this moment 1,000 times. He had pictured their reunion, thought about what he'd say when he finally met her again. But now that she was here, standing right in front of him, completely unaware of who he was. He said nothing. He didn't reveal himself. Didn't thank her. He just stood there, watching her. Why? Because he wasn't sure what kind of person she was. He knew she had saved him. But was she genuine? Or was she just another person who would take advantage of him if given the chance? A plan formed in his mind. He would watch her. Test her. And only then, when he was certain, when he truly knew who she was, he would reveal the truth. Her interview begins. She sat nervously in the interview room, facing a well-dressed woman flipping through her thin resume with raised eyebrows. "You don't have any corporate experience," the woman noted flatly. "No," the girl admitted. "But I work hard." The woman sighed, tapping her pen against the desk. "We get a lot of applicants. Most of them have degrees." A sinking feeling settled in her chest. She wasn't getting this job. But just as the woman was about to dismiss her, a voice interrupted. "I'll interview her." The girl turned, and her stomach flipped. The man from earlier, the one in the dark suit, stood in the doorway, watching her intently. The interviewer immediately straightened. "Sir? I want to speak with her personally." She had no idea he was the CEO of the entire company. The unusual interview. They sat across from each other in a private office. She still didn't recognize him. His eyes studied her, searching for something. Genuine kindness? Hidden motives? "Why do you want this job?" he asked. "I need to survive," she admitted. He leaned forward. "Not to get rich?" She frowned. "I don't need to be rich. I just need enough to live." Something in his expression shifted. He asked her strange questions, not about work, but about life. "What would you do if you had unlimited money?" She blinked. "I'd help people like me. People who work hard but never get a chance." His chest tightened. Was she real? Could someone actually be this selfless? For the first time in a long time, he felt uncertain. She had saved his life. And now, he had the power to change hers. But would she accept it? Or would she walk away when she found out the truth? One thing was certain, this was just the beginning. She left the interview feeling confused. Something about the man in the dark suit was unusual. His questions weren't normal. He hadn't asked about her skills or experience. Instead, he had tested her values, her mindset, her beliefs. Why? She didn't know. But somehow, despite her thin resume and lack of qualifications, she got the job. Her first day at work. She walked into the massive office building with nervous excitement. This wasn't just any job, this was her chance. The receptionist role wasn't glamorous, but it paid more than she had ever earned before. She promised herself she wouldn't mess this up. But the moment she stepped behind the front desk, she realized something: not everyone wanted her there. The senior receptionist, an older woman with sharp eyes, immediately disliked her. "You're the new girl?" she asked, looking her up and down. "Yes." The woman scoffed. "You won't last a week." The girl ignored the insult and got to work. She wasn't here to make friends. She was here to survive. The CEO watches in silence. From the top floor, the millionaire watched her every move. She didn't know he was the CEO. To her, he was just another executive. That was exactly how he wanted it. Would she stay humble? Would she treat people with kindness, even when no one was watching? He had to know. So he waited. And the tests began. Test number 1, the mistake. On her second day, she made a small mistake. She directed an important client to the wrong office. It was an innocent error, but the senior receptionist used it against her. "You're already causing problems," the woman snapped. "This isn't a cafe. Maybe you should go back to serving coffee." The girl felt her face burn with embarrassment. She could have fought back. She could have argued. Instead, she apologized, fixed the mistake, and kept working. The CEO watched from his office, impressed. She didn't lash out. She didn't quit. She simply moved forward. That was test number 1. She passed. Test number 2, the rude executive. A few days later, an arrogant executive stormed into the lobby, yelling at the staff. He was furious about a scheduling issue, barking orders like everyone was beneath him. The girl remained calm. She politely explained the mistake, offering to help fix it. But the man sneered. "Do you even know who I am?" She didn't flinch. "I know you're upset, and I'm happy to help. But yelling won't solve the problem." The entire lobby went silent. The executive froze, stunned that she had stood her ground without losing respect. The CEO smirked from his hidden vantage point. Test number 2, She passed. Test number 3, the jealous coworkers. As weeks passed, she became popular with clients and visitors. People liked her. That made others jealous. One afternoon, she caught 2 coworkers whispering about her. She's acting like she owns the place. She probably got hired for pity. They didn't know she could hear them. For a moment, she felt the familiar sting of being unwanted. But she didn't react. She didn't retaliate. She simply smiled and kept doing her job. The CEO saw it all. Test number 3. She passed. The CEO starts to change. He hadn't expected this. He had assumed she would fail. That eventually, she'd slip up, prove she wasn't as kind as she seemed. But day after day, she proved him wrong. She was genuine. She was strong. She was real. And for the first time in years, he began questioning himself. Was he the kind of man who deserved to be saved that night? Because the more he watched her, the more he realized, she wasn't the one being tested anymore. He was. The turning point. Then one day, something happened that changed everything. A false accusation. Someone wanted her gone. And the CEO had to decide, stay in the shadows, or finally step in and reveal the truth. The office was unusually tense that morning. The girl could feel it, a shift in the air, eyes glancing at her, whispers behind her back. Something was wrong. She was barely through the lobby doors when the senior receptionist called her over, a smug look on her face. "Come with me," the woman said, her voice sickly sweet. Confused, she followed her into a glass-walled meeting room. Inside, 3 people were waiting, HR, a security officer, and a stern-looking manager. Her heart sank. Something was definitely wrong. The false accusation. The manager didn't waste time. "We have received a complaint against you," he said coldly. The girl blinked. "A complaint? About what?" "You were caught stealing company funds." Her stomach twisted. "What? That's not true," she said immediately. "I would never. We have evidence." The senior receptionist slid a folder across the table. She opened it with trembling hands. Inside were fake financial records. Documents with her name on them. She felt like she had been punched in the gut. This was a setup. Someone was trying to get rid of her. But why? The CEO watches in silence. Upstairs, the CEO watched everything unfold through a hidden security feed. He clenched his fists. He knew exactly what was happening. The jealous coworkers. The senior receptionist's hatred. They wanted to break her. Would she fight back? Would she break down? Would she beg for mercy? This was her biggest test yet. And it wasn't just her they were testing anymore. It was him. Would he stay silent? Or would he finally step in? Her response. "I didn't do this." Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. The HR officer frowned. "The evidence says otherwise." She looked around the room, realizing the truth. No one here cared if she was innocent. They had already made up their minds. She had 2 choices. Beg and plead for mercy. Walk away with dignity. She stood up. "I know the truth," she said quietly. "And so do you." The room fell silent. "I won't fight for a job that doesn't respect me," she continued. "I won't stay where people lie just to bring others down." She turned, ready to walk out. The security officer moved to escort her out of the building. And then, a voice cut through the room. "Stop." Everyone froze. She turned slowly, and her breath caught in her throat. Standing in the doorway was the man in the dark suit. The same man who had interviewed her. But he wasn't just another executive. He was the CEO. The CEO reveals the truth. His sharp gaze scanned the room. Cancel this meeting, he ordered. She stays. The HR officer stammered, but, sir, the evidence. It's fake. His voice was calm, but firm. Everyone's faces turned pale. He turned to the senior receptionist. Do you really think I don't know what happens in my own company? He asked coolly. The woman went silent. The CEO walked over and picked up the fake documents. These were planted, he said. And I know exactly who did it. Eyes darted around the room. The trap had failed. The consequences. Within an hour, the senior receptionist and the jealous co-workers were fired. Security escorted them out as the girl stood frozen, struggling to process what had happened. The CEO turned to her. Come with me, he said. She followed him, heart pounding. She had so many questions. Why had he stepped in? Why had he protected her? But she never expected the real truth he was about to reveal. The truth about the accident. The truth about who she had saved that night. And the truth about how it was going to change her life forever. The CEO led her into his private office, the quiet hum of the air conditioning filling the otherwise still air. She barely had time to process what had just happened. She was still in shock that she wasn't fired. He closed the door behind them and motioned for her to sit. She hesitated but eventually took a seat across from him. She didn't know what to say, didn't know how to feel. The events of the day played through her mind like a movie she wasn't sure she belonged in. Just an hour ago, she was packing her things, ready to leave the company she thought had no faith in her. Now, she was sitting in front of the CEO, who had just fired half the people who had wronged her. The millionaire was standing by the window, his back to her, staring out at the city. I'm not here to punish anyone, he finally said, turning around to face her. His voice was soft but steady. Her heart skipped a beat, and she shifted nervously in her seat. I didn't save you to play games, he continued, and I'm not going to let anyone in this company treat you that way. The people who tried to sabotage you, they won't get away with it. She couldn't quite believe what she was hearing. It sounded too good to be true. I'm not sure what you mean, she whispered. He walked over to his desk and pulled out a folder, setting it down in front of her. I know who you are. I know why you helped me that night. She froze. His words sent a chill down her spine. I don't know what you mean, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. She hadn't expected this. He didn't press her further but instead nodded toward the folder. I've seen the truth. You didn't just help anyone that night, you helped me. Her mind was racing. Was he talking about the accident? The man she saved wasn't just some random stranger, he was the man who had been giving her a job, the same person who had been observing her every move. I remember you, he said, his voice softer now. I've been following your progress ever since that night. I didn't want to reveal myself to you until I knew for sure what kind of person you really were. Her heart pounded. She couldn't believe it. Why didn't you tell me, she asked, feeling a mixture of confusion and frustration. The CEO took a seat across from her, his gaze locked on hers. I didn't want you to think I was just giving you a job because I owed you. I wanted to see who you were without any favors. I wanted to know that you were here because you deserved it, not because I felt obligated. She was quiet, absorbing his words. So, what now? She asked. Her voice was barely above a whisper. He smiled, though it was a quiet, almost sad smile. I'm offering you something much bigger than just a job. She raised an eyebrow. Was he offering her a promotion? Or was there something more to this? I want you to take on a leadership role. You'll work alongside me, help steer the direction of this company. I'm not offering you a favor anymore. I'm offering you a chance to prove that you're more than capable, to show that you have the strength and heart to lead." Her jaw dropped. A leadership role? She had barely been able to keep a part-time job, let alone lead a company. "You're serious?" she asked, still trying to process his offer. He nodded. "I've been watching you. Your strength. Your humility. Your work ethic. You've earned this, whether you realize it or not." Her mind was racing. She had no idea how to respond. How could she possibly take on such a responsibility? "I can't. I'm just a girl who works a desk job," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm not someone who can run a company." He looked at her with a steady, reassuring gaze. "You don't have to do it alone. You'll have a team, support, and the resources you need. But I believe in you. I believe in what you can accomplish." Her breath caught in her throat. It felt surreal, like she had just been handed a key to a world she never thought possible. "I know it's a lot to take in," he said, standing up and walking toward the window again. "But this is your chance. A chance to prove that kindness, hard work, and a little bit of heart can change everything." She stood up slowly, her thoughts still jumbled. But deep down, something inside her knew this was the moment that could change the course of her life forever. "I'll do it," she said finally, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside. The CEO turned back to face her, a small, proud smile on his face. "I knew you would." The decision she never expected. The next few days were a blur of meetings, paperwork, and planning. But it wasn't just about the logistics. It was about the weight of the decision she had made. She was stepping into a role that required confidence, strength, and vision, things she didn't think she had. But with the CEO's support, she started to feel like maybe she could do it. Maybe she was ready for this. She didn't know what the future held, but one thing was clear: she was no longer just the girl who saved a life on a rainy night. She was becoming something more. And when she looked out the office window one evening, staring at the city below, she realized this wasn't just about success anymore. It was about something deeper: purpose. She had the chance to make a difference, not just in her life, but in the lives of others. And she was ready to take that chance, whatever it took. The days that followed her acceptance of the leadership role were filled with a whirlwind of activities, meetings, calls, decisions, and most importantly, learning. She had stepped into a world she never imagined, a world of power, influence, and responsibility. Yet, as much as she was thrown into this new life, something inside her couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing a key piece of the puzzle. She had come so far, but there was still something she didn't know: the truth about the accident. Why had the CEO gone to such lengths to hide his identity from her? Why had he been so determined to keep the secret? One afternoon, after a series of meetings with the company's top executives, she found herself alone in her office, staring at the city skyline through the window. It was one of those moments where everything felt a little too perfect, yet a little too empty. That's when he appeared in the doorway. She turned, her heart racing. The CEO stood there, looking different than usual. His expression wasn't the usual calm assurance, it was something deeper. More serious. Almost as if he had made up his mind about something important. "I think it's time you knew the truth," he said, his voice softer than she had ever heard it. Her pulse quickened. The truth? She had been waiting for this moment, but she wasn't sure she was ready for whatever he was about to reveal. "Please, sit down," he motioned to the chair across from his desk. She obeyed, unsure of what to expect. He sighed deeply before speaking again, his gaze shifting toward the floor for a moment. "You saved my life that night, and I've been trying to figure out how to repay you for what you did." He paused, as if weighing his words. "But it's not as simple as just offering you a job, or giving you money, or doing favors. It's more than that." She felt a chill run through her. This was more than she had bargained for. "You see," He continued, looking her in the eyes now, "I've been watching you, not just because of what you did for me, but because of who you are. Your strength, your selflessness, your determination. I wanted to make sure you were the kind of person I could trust. But there's something I've been hiding from you." Her breath caught in her throat. She was already on edge, but now her mind was spinning. What was he talking about? Was he about to tell her some truth that would change everything? He took a step forward, pulling out a small, worn notebook from his desk drawer. "This," he said, placing it on the table in front of her, "is something I've carried with me for years. I want you to read it, because it has something to do with you." The notebook was old, the edges frayed, and the leather worn with age. She glanced up at him, her confusion clear on her face. "Go ahead," he urged softly. Tentatively, she opened the notebook to the first page. Inside, the pages were filled with handwritten notes, but there was one entry that caught her attention. It was dated just a few months before the accident. The words on the page made her heart race. "I need to find her. The one who will change everything. The one who doesn't know her worth yet." She blinked. Was this written about her? But how? What did it mean? He was watching her carefully, waiting for her to process the words. "I wrote that when I first heard about you. When I realized you were the person who helped me that night." He leaned forward, his eyes filled with an intense clarity. "I've been looking for someone like you my entire life. Someone who would teach me the real meaning of life, not just business or power." Her head was spinning. She couldn't make sense of it all. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why were you looking for me? Why did you hide from me?" He exhaled slowly. "Because I knew if I revealed the truth too soon, you might think I was just trying to repay a debt. But I wasn't just looking for a way to thank you. I was looking for someone who could help me rebuild my life. Someone who could help me see what truly matters." She stared at him, still processing. "But why me?" she asked. "Why did you think I was the one?" "Because of your heart," he said quietly, his gaze steady and sincere. "You helped a complete stranger without asking for anything in return. You didn't care who I was, or what I could give you. You simply acted out of kindness. And that's what I needed. Someone who would teach me that I don't have to be alone at the top. I don't need to hide behind my wealth or power. I need someone who can remind me of the simple things that make life worth living." She was speechless. It felt like the weight of everything had suddenly shifted. She had gone from being a girl with nothing, struggling to survive, to now standing at the center of something far bigger than herself. He continued, his voice soft yet filled with determination. "I'm not asking you to forgive me for hiding the truth from you. I just wanted you to know that everything I've done for you, everything I've offered you, is because of what I saw in you. You saved my life, and now, I want you to help me change the world." The words hung heavy in the air. She didn't know how to respond. What could she say? This wasn't just a job offer anymore. This was life-changing. And in that moment, she realized that the millionaire was right about one thing: he hadn't just found someone who could help him. He had found someone who could change everything. The only question left was whether she would be able to handle it. Would she accept the challenge, step into this new world of power, responsibility, and influence, and become someone who could truly make a difference? The days following the CEO's revelation felt like a blur of emotions, decisions, and uncertainty. She had stepped into a new world, yes, but it was a world so far beyond her reach that she felt like a small speck in a giant universe, unsure of where to fit in or whether she even belonged. She had always believed that kindness and hard work would get her through life. But now, faced with an opportunity that felt too big to fathom, she wasn't sure if she was ready to take on such immense responsibility. The CEO had laid it all out in front of her, the chance to help shape the future of his company, to be a part of something bigger than herself, to make decisions that would affect thousands of lives. But it wasn't just the job offer that overwhelmed her. It was the realization that her entire life had changed in the span of a few months, and now she had the power to change other people's lives too. But there was still a nagging question in the back of her mind: could she trust herself to be the leader he saw in her? A test of will. The first major challenge came sooner than expected. The company was facing a critical decision: a partnership with a rival business that could potentially transform the company's future, or destroy it if things went wrong. The executives were split. Some believed it was a great opportunity, while others feared it would bring risks that were too high. The CEO, trusting her instincts, turned to her. "I want you to lead this meeting," he said one morning, his voice calm but firm. "You're going to make the final call. This will be your decision." Her heart raced. The pressure was immense. This wasn't a small choice, this could change the direction of everything. At that moment, standing in front of a room full of seasoned executives, all of them looking to her for guidance, she felt the weight of it all. The room was silent, waiting for her to speak. She took a deep breath, steadying herself, then spoke. "We are standing at a crossroads. This decision will shape the future of this company, but we cannot let fear hold us back. We need to take a calculated risk, one that will propel us forward, not drag us down. The people we partner with matter, trust matters." Her voice was steady, her hands no longer trembling. The room was watching her, and for the first time, she felt like she belonged there. As she made her case, explaining her reasoning, her vision for the company's future, and why she believed this was the right step, something shifted inside her. She wasn't just speaking to impress. She was speaking with purpose. A bold move. After hours of debate, the executives voted. The partnership was approved. It was a bold move, one that would either make or break the company. But she had done it, she had led the team to a decision. The CEO smiled from across the room as the final vote was cast. He knew she was ready for more than just a desk job. He had watched her grow in ways he hadn't expected, and now, she had proven herself capable of handling the responsibility that came with such a powerful role. When the meeting ended, he walked over to her, his expression proud. "Well done," he said. "You've earned more than just a place in this company. You've earned the right to shape its future." She looked at him, surprised. "I couldn't have done it without the support of the team." He shook his head, his gaze unwavering. "No. You did it because you trusted yourself. You took a risk, and you owned the outcome. That's what makes a leader." The past returns. But just as things began to settle, a new challenge arose, a personal one. One afternoon, she was at her desk, reviewing some files, when her phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hesitant, she answered. "Hello? Is this the woman who saved a life a few months ago?" The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, but something about it made her feel uneasy. "Yes, this is she," she said, her voice cautious. There was a brief silence, followed by a deep, almost gravelly voice. "I know who you really are. And I think it's time we talk." She froze. The voice belonged to someone from her past, a person she hadn't heard from in years. It was her estranged father, a man she had cut ties with long ago. A shocking revelation. That evening, she stood outside the CEO's office, struggling to decide whether or not to tell him what had happened. The weight of the conversation with her father was hanging over her like a storm cloud. He had come back into her life, just when she was starting to find stability. What did he want now? She couldn't shake the feeling that this could destroy everything she had worked so hard to build. When the CEO saw her standing there, his expression softened. "You look troubled. What's going on?" She hesitated before speaking, her words coming slowly. "I just heard from someone from my past. It's my father." The CEO's brow furrowed. What does he want? He wants to meet. He says he has something important to tell me. She sighed deeply. I don't know if I'm ready for this. The choice ahead. She stood at a crossroads again, but this time, it was about more than just business. It was about her family, her past, and her future. Would she allow the past to pull her back into the darkness, or would she use the strength she had gained to face it and keep moving forward? Her phone buzzed again, and she glanced down at the message. It was from her father. I need to see you. I'm coming to the office tomorrow. The future was never as simple as she imagined. And she realized then that being a leader wasn't just about making decisions for a company. It was about making decisions for your life, no matter how difficult the choice may be. The day came when her father appeared at the office. He didn't call, didn't give any warning except the single text message that had haunted her all night. I'm coming to the office tomorrow. She had spent the entire night tossing and turning, wrestling with the choice of whether to let him back into her life or cut him off completely. But today, as she stood in the reception area, she realized that it wasn't about him anymore. This wasn't about her past, it was about what kind of person she wanted to be moving forward. The door to her office opened, and there he stood. Her father, a man who had once been everything to her, but now seemed like a stranger. His hair was graying, his face lined with years of regret, and yet something about his presence still had the power to stir old feelings. For a moment, neither of them said anything. The room was heavy with the weight of years of silence. Finally, her father spoke. His voice was quieter than she remembered, tinged with vulnerability. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I need you to know that everything I did because I thought I was protecting you. She wasn't sure what to say. Her mind flashed back to all the times he had let her down, all the promises he had broken. I don't know what you want from me, she said, her voice trembling, trying to keep her emotions in check. I need you to understand, he continued, I didn't have the right tools to be a good father. But I've changed. And I know I hurt you. I'm sorry. The words were difficult to hear, but they weren't the apology she had been hoping for. There was no magic formula to erase the hurt, no quick fix to undo the damage he had caused. The damage wasn't even just to her, it was to their relationship. And that kind of hurt wasn't something you could just forgive overnight. She felt her chest tighten. Could she forgive him? Was she ready? The decision. As she sat there, staring at the man who had abandoned her and her family, something in her clicked. This wasn't about forgiveness. It wasn't about reconciling the past, it was about deciding who she was going to be from this moment on. I'm not sure I can forgive you, not yet, she said slowly, her voice firm. But I don't want to live in the past anymore. I've spent enough of my life being angry, and I'm tired of it. Her father nodded, the lines on his face deepening. He seemed relieved but still filled with regret. I understand. But I want to be here for you, if you'll let me. I want to be a part of your life. But I also know that it's up to you. She took a deep breath, looking down at her hands. The past was always going to be there, but the future was still in her hands. The question wasn't whether or not she could forgive him. It was whether she could move forward despite everything. She stood up, walking to the window, her reflection in the glass staring back at her. This was her moment of choice, the decision that would determine everything. I don't know where this will go, she said quietly, but I do know one thing. I'm not going to let you, or anyone, stop me from becoming the person I need to be. She turned back to him, her eyes unwavering. I'm taking control of my life now. Her father said nothing. He simply nodded, understanding that this was as much for her as it was for him. It was a new beginning, not just for her, but for them both. The life lesson. As the day wore on, she found herself reflecting on everything that had happened, from the night she saved a stranger's life to the position she now found herself in. She had gone from someone who struggled to make ends meet, to someone who was leading a company, making decisions that would impact thousands of people. Her story had never been one of simple success. It had been a journey, full of setbacks and difficult choices. But with each challenge, she had grown stronger. She had learned that kindness isn't always repaid in ways you expect, but sometimes, it leads you to the most unexpected and life-changing opportunities. The truth was, life was about the people who showed up when things got tough. Not just to help, but to believe in you when you didn't believe in yourself. She smiled to herself, finally realizing what the CEO had meant all along. True success isn't measured by money or power, but by the way you lift others up. By the way you make decisions that reflect the kind of person you want to be, not just the kind of person the world expects you to be. She had chosen to become someone who would make a difference, not just for herself, but for the people around her. And that, she realized, was the greatest gift of all. As she looked out over the city, she felt a sense of peace settle within her. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, she was no longer afraid to take it on. Because she had learned the greatest life lesson of all, the power to change your life is in your hands, and no matter where you've been, it's never too late to become the person you were meant to be.